gave them, by the way, the brothers were, because we're live.
Go. All right. All right. Good morning, Sean. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. What day
What a
of the
great
week? Oh yeah,
week.
it's Blur Day. That's what I've now called every day. It's called Blur Day because they're just blurring into one. I think it's Friday. Actually, I shouldn't know that. I shouldn't say that because Friday is like an anchor. It's one of those little cornerstones where you and I get to talk and kind of spitball a little bit and share our world with people, and it's something that is dear to my heart as it is to yours. So that's literally kind of like probably the most significant day of my week, like where I know Friday 10. Right? Everything else is in flux, that's for sure.
So funny. Well, our show is brought to us by Heyler Realty, and boy, what a great, productive week it's been for sure. It's just fun when it gets to be this amazing for people that we help, you know?
Oh, well, it's I'm trying to figure out being a combination of sensitive and double entendre. It is hot out there, right? It's hot physically, it's hot, and we'll talk a little bit about our neighbors to the north and what they're experiencing. But relative to our business and our lives and the vehicle that fuels us, the real estate market is really on almost like unexplainably hot. And the experience that you had that we'll share a little bit later about one of our properties is a great indicator, and it should give people some modest amount of comfort. And I think I've done some analysis trying to figure out why, some of the explanations, some collaboration with other realtors that are out there that work in different marketplaces to share some thoughts as to what they're experiencing. But boy, you have a nice success story to share with people. I'm excited to bring that around.
Yeah, well, and subsequently, though, on the other end of it, as I'm making tour for buyers I'm taking out tomorrow, one of them, it was one day on market. The agent, I chased her down for 2.5 days. Like, hey, can I please, can you just respond to me? I called you, I texted you, I emailed you. Can we get a showing? And I am so inundated, she said, with the amount of people that was calling to schedule. She's like, I'm booked out. You could try to show up and stand in line and see if someone else kind of cancels, but I can't even keep up with the demand of people that want to see this house. So it is insane on both ends.
It really is. Well, it is in terms of representing sellers, which is of course something we love to do, and also representing buyers. And one of the traits that I've described you as, and it's meant completely as a compliment, so I hope it's taken in such a way and it doesn't come off any derogatory or misogynistic way, but you're like a combination of Wonder Woman, I think, and she was described as, was she an Amazonian? Like a huntress. Like you've got your weapons in hand and you are going. And it is woman on fire, like that energy that you generate, as well as this intensity in that pursuit for the buyers. And your style in doing that is like, I'm just going to keep willing this thing through and working it through. And to your point, here we are dealing with other agents in other parts of the market that are overwhelmed or ill prepared. Whereas one of the examples we'll share a little bit later, how methodical you were, because we had all that same kind of activity. It was volcanic. But we're wired to handle it. We're wired to organize it. We're wired to structure it and derive some rather amazing results, actually. So, I'm excited. I love the little Heyler sponsorship because it's important. This is the engine that fuels us. It gives us the freedom of time to connect with our audience and our friends and our neighbors and family and past clients, which are, always been at the heart of what we do, right? It's like, especially in these times, how important it is to be able to connect to people. And this is a nice way of just publicly exposing ourselves and just saying, hey, we're out here. We love it. We love connecting community and people. And this is our business. And this is how it comes to us and sharing our experiences. So I treasure this time.
And especially connecting with community. I mean, we love building community. We love being a part of this community. And it has been so fun to get out and share all the wonderful folks that are the heart and soul of our community. So, which is why we're very grateful to have Master H, Scott Hutchinson, who is the master over at Tae Ryong Studios. We're going to bring him into the queue here and say hello. All right.
Hello.
Scott, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you guys for having me on. This is great.
And
Uh,
it's like what I love is we were able to fortunately experience firsthand when Jake was 6 years old and he was going through all of his IEPs and having all of these therapists for being autistic at the time. And they said what would be great for him is physically is to have Taekwondo. And being Korean, myself, I never had to go through the, Taekwondo experience, but I knew obviously a lot about it growing up. And then to put Jake into it, and Master Lee and Master H, I have to tell you, you guys, as the Pied Piper of children. I mean, you guys are so good with them. It's fascinating how engaged these children are, as well as parents, because grown-ups can also hang out with you guys.
Hey,
as well,
you said
right?
you never got that experience, so maybe this is the time for you.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
I know, right?
you put yourself there, Jay. You set that up, and you just spiked the ball. It's all you had to do.
I have a black belt already in life, though. So.
Well, you know what? I'm fascinated and love this subject. I'm a student of martial arts and have been around it most of my life. And really, quite honestly, indoctrinated as a small kid, looking up to Bruce Lee as an image, right? Like, who was the most kick-ass kind of guy? And Bruce Lee was so iconic in so many ways. And then exposing yourself to it, learning about the different martial arts and the different schools of thought, and Taekwondo being absolutely one of the very most athletic and dynamic and sensational of the martial art practices.
Well,
frankly,
I know
Scott,
that Scott can jump like 6 feet in the air. What's your vertical? Like
Thanks.
55 inches? Even
I mean,
post-knee surgery?
we did that demo in front of your guys' real estate
Office,
on the street, and it was a lot of fun with Jake. So we got a chance to show off some of those moves. So it was very cool.
But it's what's super cool about it, Scott, is it's so approachable. To Jay's point, the way you guys teach and the way you are forward, you're all in community members. You will show up to everything that is in your immediate sphere of influence and beyond. You're bringing the message of the relationship between the body and the mind together through this discipline. And what you did to help transform Jake in his young, growth period was so instrumental, because you could see this focus that he came with and his achievement. And like I told Jay, I've observed martial arts for a very long time, and you can see people who have technique. You can see how their minds work. And Jake was so focused. I was like, oh, this kid could take it as far as he wants to go. And she said, well, I think
Jake, Jake is really great. And that's one of the things, why I love teaching Taekwondo is because you can take like this individual, even though, when you're in a group setting, it's about them and their journey, and you help guide them. And really, when parents first come in and they see, like where you start compared to these kids at 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years in, and it's like they started, in a similar place, and through, time, effort, dedication, this is what you end up with. And it's like really amazing. So
how old were you when you first got exposed to it, Scott?
Great question.
I mean, I'm in the similar group of, Bruce Lee, Saturday Kung Fu Theater, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Right.
That kind of got me into like martial arts in general. As far as like starting practicing, I started at 13. So now that's considered like, let's say late, because we have these kids that are starting at like 4, 5, 6, 7. So now I've been doing it for over 30 years. So it's always, even when kids come in a little bit older, I say, it's all what they put into it. So someone who starts at 10 or 15 or 7, to me, it's like, as long as they keep on going, keep on working, really, there's no like, let's say bad age to start. I think any age is a great age to start, even like.
But how did you even find it at 13? Did your parents get you into it as well? Or did you find a studio on your own?
I mean, it started off where my mom knew 2 instructors. One taught Taekwondo and one taught karate. And it was just so happened that I ended up taking Taekwondo, not knowing like the difference or anything. And then that's what I've stuck with my whole life. My instructor was in the military and actually started in Camarillo and then got stationed to Massachusetts. And then I grew up doing Taekwondo in Massachusetts, always with a link to California. And then as a teenager, I came out to visit the studio. And then after high school, I moved out here and started teaching for my teacher's teacher.
Wow. And what degree of belt do you have now?
I'm a 7th degree black belt.
For 7.
So and that roughly takes, when you do the math, it's like, 3 years to get a first degree, another 2 for second. So every degree is the years you have to put in is that degree. So really, like, let's say 6th to 7th is another 7 years. So from my last testing to 8th degree is 8 years, and that's all the 8th and 9th degree testings are done in Korea. So
Wow.
I'm really trying to rattle. I'm racking up the numbers in that, but I think that's an awesome explanation that people need to understand, that the difference between white belt to black belt is an increment or a unit, if you will, but everything above that is another magnitude, like an earthquake. Like an earthquake that's a 3.0 is 10 times stronger than one that is a 2.0, and in this is true in the martial arts. And 7th degree puts you at a very elite level of masters that practice.
And you earn the title master at 4th degree. So you earn the title master when you become a 4th degree. And just like you said, the difference is, to earn a black belt takes about 3 years. To earn that 4th degree black belt takes 12 years, just to see like the difference in time.
Well, your evolution of your studio over the last, I would say 10 years that I've noticed you being there, you were at the CrossFit studio, you had the Taekwondo studio, that transition, now you have remodeled your studio, right?
Yes, I mean, it all started with my daughter, and she was at Fairburn. So she actually started at Fairburn, and I started volunteering once a week to her kindergarten class teaching Taekwondo. So once a week I would teach Taekwondo. And then when she got to about 2nd or 3rd grade, she wanted to do it more. So that's when I started my first like local Westwood kids class. And that was actually on Santa Monica and Beverly Glen. I had this like small 800 square feet, place, and I taught twice a week. And then that became, very popular. So it was a point in my life where I had to decide if I wanted to teach Taekwondo full time again, or if I just wanted to like stop accepting students and just do it part-time. And I made the decision 10 years ago, it actually is our 10-year anniversary last month, to start teaching full-time again. And that's when I found the place on Westwood Boulevard. And we started just with one side, which is about 1,500 square feet. And then 4 years ago, we did a remodel and took over the space next to us. So now it's 3,000 square feet. But, the name of our Taekwondo studio is named Tae Ryong, which means constantly growing dragon. So it's like this huge dragon that just keeps on getting bigger. And that's what I'd like to think about. Like my journey is like, you always keep growing. And that's what I'd like to do, is just like keep growing, keep, helping people in the community, helping kids kind of achieve their goals. So that's always been my like main focus.
Well, we talk about that for a moment, like, right, what it means to achieve those kinds of goals for children. I expect that you probably experience at some level where they are able to come out of themselves from fears or anxieties or shrinking from life, where they feel more empowered. There's a lot of growth and dynamic that they experience. And I'm sure you've transformed many of those lives. And I love the imagery of that, a growing dragon, which is kind of like, hey, well, let's all be a part of that. For you, for someone who's achieved as much as you do you still study to advance? Is there still a growth for you in this experience? Do you have masters that you study under?
There is. So my master, Grandmaster Shin, is a 9th degree black belt. So that's, who I study under. And there's a group of, let's say, senior black belts that are all like, 6th and 7th degree that study under Grandmaster Shin. There's definitely a certain point, I'm sure you guys know, like me, as you get a little older, let's say jumping as high is not the main focus of our, kind of like growth. So for me, there's definitely a transition of, let's say like competitor athlete into more of like this master teacher instructor, where my goal is more about not so much myself. I think, even you can see it like when you get your 1st degree black belt and even your 2nd degree black belt, it's about you. And it's about what you can do, how you can advance, how much better you get. And then as you get to like 3rd degree, 4th degree, 5th degree and up, it's about like, how can I help out other students? How can I help out the community? How can I grow this and bring what I love to more people? So it's not always about like me getting better in the sense of like my techniques, even though I'm always working on that. It's more about like, how can I help more people?
Isn't it funny, Scott? Because that is like the stages of human involvement, though. You start out from survival, and then you reach stability, and then you reach success. But then the moment you get to success and you really have empathy and connected with the world, you go from success to significance. And significance is about how do we impact others in the world. But then once you reach that level of significance, you're giving, giving, giving. And then this whole other level of what we call sacred level comes in. Sacred is where you just leave a legacy. How can I impact enough people in this world that I've struggled and I survived it. I've become successful because of hard work and diligence and really wanting to impact, and significance because I've given to enough people. But then you reach that level of sacredness, and which is why I feel like the belts within Taekwondo are very similar. You reach that level of sacredness, which is where true wisdom has sunk in, life experiences have been met. Physically, we're probably not able to meet the demands of some of the things we once did when we were younger, but our level of ability to leave a legacy and be a legend in our craft or in our field and giving to others, that I feel like is the evolution of, you know, the path that we go on, right? And it's just so satisfyingly and I think deep and enriching and fulfilling to be on that path.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it definitely is, like you said, the first thing, it starts with like you and you improving. And then once you get to that point, then obviously you teach others. And I think now it's like, even though I continue that, it's like, can I get someone that I teach to become a teacher who then can carry that on, you know? And that's definitely like the point now, is like teaching these kids or students to be like teachers themselves.
Amazing.
It's
well,
like
I know you have a lot of
emptying your
fans
cup,
on here
right?
now
So
too. Yeah.
Well, hey, that's great.
You have
I was a little worried. I was like,
here.
yesterday it went on Instagram and I looked and there was like 1 like, and I was like, all right, I gotta like, let's see what I can do here.
Yeah, but you know, in all fairness, Scott, your reputation is community wide. And I will say that when we shared that you were going to be the guest, there was a notable reaction in the public. We're like, oh, we love that man. We love what he's done. And when I think of the people, the quality of the people and the quality of the children that you've helped, and you see them, you know the results are real. Your reputation speaks for itself. And we're grateful that you're here. You're anchoring something that's really important, which I think is the whole philosophy of coming into connection with our bodies, right? So that so often we can end up in a cyber world where we're on a screen and we get sedentary, or it used to be television now, or maybe it's Netflix now, or Amazon or what have you. But the point is we can be that way. But here you're saying like, hey, this is a way to get your blood flowing. This is this is how your left side works. This is how your right side works. And this is how we harmonize those things.
Yes.
There's a lot of wisdom to share there. And I think your lessons can't be understated for people to come to. I will share a personal story that, as I mentioned, I have 4 children, and each one of them are practitioners of different martial arts. And that's kind of they have to take it to the minimum. They have to get to a first degree, a legitimate first degree. And then after they do that, if they choose it, great. 2 of my children became exceptional athletes, like as in really top tier collegiate level. And they will tell you, Taekwondo for my eldest was she studied with a guy named Jung Chung, and out, I think he was in Mid City, older gentleman, great guy. But all of a sudden, she wasn't limited to her right side. She had a left side, and she became deadly on the left side. So she could beat you left or right because of the harmony and the balance of that martial art, which is so dynamic. And she could lift the ball out of the air. I have so much respect for your discipline and what you bring to people. And I emphasize to enough of the public who may be watching or sharing it is important. It's all boost Scott's Instagram, his Facebook profile, and his Twitter profile, because more people need this message. It's so good for them.
Hey, Scott, so tell us a little bit about how this shift was from when you shifted from first going into quarantine, and did you do online shows, or what did you?
I mean, so it was definitely one of those things. We do belt testing every 3 months, and it came up where it was mid-March, and we were having our week of belt testing, and it was like Wednesday, Thursday, and I had some parents like, you know, that didn't want to come in. They started to hear different things, so I was getting some like rescheduling things. And then, so I started like kind of figuring out like what needs to happen in the next like few days. And really, like, I'm telling you, it was day to day where we're open. Saturday comes around and now we're closed. And we're like, all right, now we cannot have classes. And I talked to some parents and they said they're starting school on Zoom. So literally like Sunday, we're like, all right, what is Zoom? What do we need to do? And then Monday we had our first Zoom class. And it was one of those things where it's like, I can teach like 5-6 classes in a row, no problem, like live. And I taught one Zoom class and I was like so tired. I was like out of breath. I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Like, what is going on? Because you're trying to like connect with these kids. Right. And it's like, you're watching them all on the screen. So they're in front of their like couches and then they're sitting down and they're like laying down and you're like, wait, hold on, wait, you got to stand up.
This is not a show.
Yeah, it was definitely like that first week it was adjustments, and Master Lee and I were like, kind of like, all right, how can we engage these kids where they can learn? You know what I mean? I'm not trying to like do something where it's like they're kind of watching us and they're not doing anything. Like, I still want to have people learning through this virtual medium. So then we really came up with this system where there's 3 of us. So it's like myself, Master Lee, and Master Naraz. And one of us teaches, the other one works the Zoom controls to spotlight kids, and the other is the DJ. So we have these 3 things going to really make the classes interactive, so we totally like, came up with a formula that worked, and then we just switched off, and now we're like teaching classes, no problem. But really that first week I was like sweating. It was tough. It was tough.
An adjustment. Wow, that's awesome. I mean, you literally pivoted into making something that's creative and dynamic and super accessible. That's tremendous.
And now you're doing parking lot. You're able to get them outdoor classes.
So what happened was, we were on the Zoom classes and we did that for X amount of months. And then I want to say in July, we were able to open in the studio. So then we opened in the studio, and it was one of those things where I was like, this is great. These people are going to be coming back. And then only a few people came back, and everyone still wanted to learn on Zoom. So I was like, all right, so we have to continue Zoom, and we'll have our studio classes with social distancing, all the different measures as far as like hand sanitizing, all the doors open. And then we got shut down again. So then like 3 weeks into that, we got shut down again. And I felt like I couldn't just go back to just the Zoom classes. So we were like, what can we do? And then so the parking lot came up, and it's like, all right, let's have classes in the parking lot. So then we, got some tents, got cones. And so we started having classes in the parking lot, and we have it where we have the Zoom classes like by themselves. Then we have parking lot classes by themselves. Then we also have a combined hybrid class where it's Zoom and parking lot. So we bring the setup outside. So the kids at home see the kids in the parking lot, and everyone works out together. So we actually have like 3 different things going on.
Wow, that's a circus. That's impressive.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, it becomes one of those things like, let me, because everyone has a different comfortability level. So it's like, how can I like help everyone and make sure they're getting what they need? Because who am I to say like, hey, you should come or can't come or do this or do that? So we want to make it where it's like everyone's needs are met, and then they have different mediums to jump on.
That is so great. And your daughter started school? Because what is she, in 9th grade?
I mean, well, my daughter, she's in college. So she was, she's older. She's older.
Flies.
I know.
Oh,
you're like, how's this 21-year-old have a 19-year-old? All right. So, so she, and this is like, we were talking like the pros and cons, right? So I try to look at the pros, the positives, and how we can, just like keep on building on those. So my daughter, went off to school, and now she's back at home, and she was a big part of the studio, like kind of growing up, but then through high school, musical theater, sports, kind of like wasn't at the studio as much. And now that she's going to take a gap semester, so now she's at the studio once again, helping out, doing classes. So it's like, that's a huge pro for me, just to have her at the studio and around is very positive. And, it's one of those things where there's a bunch of kids where, because of other sports aren't happening right now, or just things aren't open, have found their way back to the Taekwondo studio. So these are kids that I taught when they were like 9, 10, 11, and now they're 19, and it's like great to see them. It's like I haven't seen them for 8 years, and now they're back at the studio. So it's a lot of fun.
Well, as a physical outlet, though, I have to say, I mean, it is such a great workout. It works on not only mental agility, but also to get the body in a state where you can be stronger, more flexible, more control and power. And so it is for all ages, right? And then you also have a kickboxing class. Are you still doing those?
Yeah, so we started a kickboxing
cardiovascular
class
too.
a few years ago, and really it's bringing like taekwondo, kickboxing, boxing, and then like body weight strength and conditioning all into one class, and it's really like for kids and parents. It was like it's a great workout, and we were doing that in the studio also, but then with the shutdown and everything, we kind of moved to a virtual class on Sunday, and hopefully over the next couple weeks we're going to move into live classes. I think it's for the main people in that class, it's kind of like finding the balance of like helping their kids with school and their needs, and then also like when they can get away to like a 1 hour class. So I'm hoping in September we'll be able to like kind of get everyone's schedule and start having a couple classes during the week along with the Sunday class.
Oh, got it. Well, that class, I took one on Mother's Day. Let me tell you something. That was no joke. It is a very difficult class.
Well, hey, you can keep on coming. Keep on coming. We have one this Sunday. You guys can both do it. Sean and Jay.
Thank you.
Let's videotape that sucker. That'll be funny. And that's great that you've got between the classes, combination hybrids, you've got Zoom, you still got kids going through their belt classes. I mean, it's great to hear that you've just been innovative and shifting and moving and, gearing up to try to stay, positive, as well as being such a good role model in the community.
Thank you.
And you have the gift of your daughter coming back, that rare time, as much of the audience will know, I have children that range from 13 to 35, and it happens in a blink of an eye. For you to have your daughter come back from going away to school, and you get this gap, which, by the way, my son chose to do the same thing. I think it's a good move in this environment. And for her to be able to be there with you, energizing, connecting, it's such a rare time in life to enjoy. So I celebrate that. That's awesome that you and she had the wisdom and foresight to say, this is probably a good chance for me to do something a little bit different than the norm, and move forward, and you get to bond your relationship that much deeper. And I think that's
we're so proud that you're such a big gem in our community, Scott. I have to say, having you open up having you open up your shop 10 years ago, and the impact you've had not only on the kids but also grown-ups, and as a business owner, as a community member, constantly giving back and offering and donating to various causes, and the support and the love you receive is well deserved, because you have put your time in with just your compassion and your enthusiasm and your energy. When you have your class going, the music's going, the energy is hyped up, and you're yelling at all these kids and they're all doing what you tell them to do. It really is just a classic. It's just awesome. It's an awesome experience. So keep up doing what you're doing. If there's anything we can do to continue to support you, please let us know. As you know, we are your representative on the neighborhood council as well. So as a business owner, if you have any needs, stay connected with us, because we're more than happy to try to help a fellow neighbor as much as we can.
Well, let's plug in some contact information. I think that's important too, where people can find you online, where people can find you on the phone, so that they can take your invitation up and come and participate.
Oh, Yvonne's already on
definitely.
it. She has already posted all of that.
She's posting on that.
Yeah, and we have two things coming up that I'm excited about. Is with the school year starting, and I found that like some parents are starting some pods. So these pods are anywhere from like 4 to 8 kids where they learn together. So we started doing a like kind of once a week Taekwondo/PE, visiting these pods and doing classes.
Oh, that's
and
genius.
then on top of that, so that's one of the new things. And the other thing is when this all first started, I offered a free kind of beginners class, and I'm bringing that back for September. So starting in September on Tuesdays, there'll be a free beginners class for anyone who wants to kind of get started in Taekwondo. And it's a great way for just to reach a bunch of people. So it will be on Zoom, 30-minute beginners class, free for everyone. So.
That is amazing. Well, I think that if they follow you on Instagram or Facebook or go to your website, it's a great way to stay connected with all the fun things you have coming up. Again, it really is the music, the way you hype up the classes. It is a great workout, and it's very entertaining to watch the kids run around as well. So it's a win-win.
Thank you. Well, you guys, Sean and Jay, you both have an invitation this Sunday, 10 a.m. Let's do it.
Thank you very kindly.
Sweat it out. All right, Scott, thanks for joining us. You're welcome back to come back in the future once we get through the other side of this. I believe we're gonna come out even better than we started. And happy 10-year anniversary on your business here on Westwood Boulevard.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're proud that you're part of this community.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Thank you guys for having me on.
So much so. Thank you, Scott.
All right, bye, Scott.
Have a great day.
Bye.
Awesome. What a great guy.
Yeah. Oh, super. I mean, who he comes across to on the screen is actually who he really is, right? He's very approachable for someone who's such an accomplished athlete and frankly, technically very deadly, you know, as a combatant, like capable. He's so soft and sweet and accessible. And I think that speaks to why he has so much success with these children, right? And I've noted that some of the children that I know that go to his studio, you see a transformation in them. You see more confidence. You see more connection with their body. You see an esteem and a pride. And of all the things that I value, as you probably know, and I've said many times, the esteem of a child is such a delicate and beautiful thing when you can build that in them. And martial arts are such a great exposure to it. And Taekwondo, with all of its incredibly dynamic movements and legs and arms and jumping, and it's so cardiovascular, it raises the child, and you see the difference in a child who doesn't. And I will also share that whenever my children have a bad attitude, you stick them in a martial art class, they come out very different after that hour. So I think it's to anybody who's wondering or curious, take Scott up on those offers because those are spectacular.
What I did love is that Jake came home and started doing chores, and I was like, what is going on? Well, in order for him to like earn the marks on his next class, he had to have all these assignments that he's like 7 years old, and I don't think we ever assigned him chores really just yet. He starts, okay, Mom, I need fold clothes, or I need to help you with the dishes or take the trash out. I'm like, who is this?
What's happening? Who are you? Wait a minute, Jake, are you still there? Jake, is that the boy I left? Right?
Masterpiece says, it's part of their assignment.
well, I mean, that's also, if that alone isn't enough for parents that are watching, or to share this virally with people and say, hey, look, you want to add a little some responsibility that takes you as the parent off of that and puts it somewhere else. This is the ideology and philosophy of the martial art and how they teach, and those are values, core values. It says, hey, there's no free ride, everybody's in this together, let's all grow, let's all participate. And I think that's awesome. I think that's actually a wonderful benefit.
I know, it was
that
cute,
you got to benefit from.
Yes, exactly. Well, and he's learning responsibility. I think that is something that everybody can get a benefit out of. I don't think there's enough of that. Sure. Obviously, is to learn responsibility for oneself as well as caring for others, and that can never start soon enough, I have to say. But it's cute when they would count down in Korean, English, Farsi, Spanish. Like he would have the kids count from 1 to 10 in all the various languages, because we are on the west side of LA, and there's such a diversity of ethnicity and cultures here. And so it was cute how he went down, and of course every class there's some mention of Korean food. And so as a parent sitting on the sidelines, and I have some major food cravings sometimes, I was like, oh man, why did he have to mention that food? Because now I got to go think about it and figure out when I'm going to figure out a way to get down to K-Town and get some food.
I'm going to segue on that, right? So this is the power of suggestion, and I had a lesson with my young son Charlie today about the power of the environment. But for whatever reason it was last night, my wife had fallen asleep watching a TV show, and so the TV was on, but it clicked over, and it happened to click on when I woke up at one point, and it was the one of the cooking channels. I forget what the names of them are, but it was Carnival. When it wasn't Beat Bobby Flay, but it was in the network, and This one was called Carnival Eats. Now, Korean food and the way you eat, is very different than this. This is like deep fried avocados, right?
Oh
this is
God.
like, it was so decadent and out over the line. But then all of a sudden, I was like, I had to drink a gallon of water because I was craving it. I was like, how could I, what, I don't want that grease, but yes, I do. So when you start to hear the cooking channels, I can't watch them because then the next thing I know, I start to think about food, want food.
It's like
You and
reading
I
a
are such
cookbook or
foodies,
reading a menu.
and
I
I'm
know the
sure.
moment it makes you start craving food and
Oh,
you
it's
start
and
reading.
then I think to myself like, what could I add to what I'm eating to make it like zest up like this? And it's a slippery slope,
Too funny.
slippery slope.
Well, you know what? Not to segue into this, but like this, Amazon has the ultimate race or the obstacle course challenge with Bear Grylls. Oh my God, it's so cool. These 60 some people start out, teams of 4, and they're doing the obstacle course. It's the ultimate obstacle race, or 11-day
But it's like an
challenge.
ultimate, right? It's out there like really dynamic things. This is not like you're in
11
the phone.
days.
Okay.
Right, 11 days, 600.
In the wilderness? Is it outside?
Fiji.
Is it?
Yeah, it's in Fiji.
Okay.
It's 670-kilometer race
Wow.
over 11 days. Whew. It's intense.
Yeah, but actually, I think you and I are kind of wired for it, and we could train
I
for that,
know.
right? We could do that. Actually, that's kind of interesting. Like,
Isn't
maybe you
that
should just
funny?
put us in the queue. I'll go with you. I'd do that in a heartbeat.
We have
In
to
a
find a third and fourth.
Yeah, we could do that. Well, we always, it's funny because and they use Fiji a lot because Fiji has that open business model with the U.S. And so they do a lot of filming there, and I think they do a lot of the CBS show Survivors on that a lot. And whenever
You
I see
belong on that
Survivor,
show.
well, thank you. I mean, I think it's a fun show. I've watched it. I'm a fan of it for sure. And but then I had to figure out, well, which one of my family members would I bring? And each one had their own ability to bring something different to the game. And I realized I'm screwed. I can't invite any of them because I'm going to offend the one I don't take. But if I go with you, I'm good because you're the whole package that way.
Well, and I'm tough as nails, man. If I had to carry you somewhere, I'd still do it.
You might wilt under that a little bit. I'm a little bigger than you are these days. However, I know you're fierce and I know you're strong and you have it in your mind. And that's actually a wonderful segue relative to what we're dealing with, because we're talking about the mind and this body connection and all the things that you and I really believe. We both train often. We're dedicated to it, have been for decades at this stage in our lives. The only reason I don't weigh 350 pounds is because I exercise as vigorously as I do. Thank heaven for that. But having said this idea of mind over matter and how we do things, so much of our business is relative to strategy. Like, how do you do things? How do you set things up? There's marketing ploys. There are ploys or they use or strategies. There's also the idea of expectation, how to control people's emotions and guide them to certain outcomes. And then there's also just outwitting everybody else you're working with. And so you and I have this experience that I want to share with the audience that has to do with the property on Mount Olympus. And it's aptly named Mount Olympus because you've ascended to the heights, Jay Woo, in what you've been able to cultivate there. We should share a little bit about that.
Yeah, it is a trustee sale. So the owner passed a month ago, and fortunate that we got this listing from a colleague I know in a professional networking group, and was trusted to take care of it. I'm counting on you to just take care of it. And that's what we do best, right? We're going to take that baton and run with it. We're off to the races. We're going to just from A to Z, top to bottom, take care of it. And sure enough, like, this market is very hot. And so we got a lot of activity on it, multiple offers on it. And there's always 2 or 3 people right up there, right? There's always 2 or 3 people competing when there's a multiple offer kind of situation. And fortunately, the right person won, I believe. We'll see how it goes. But
you're not doing this story service. We need more color commentary. Firstly, the person that you're networking with is somebody that you respect, and he's very verbose. This is a very dynamic person in a professional networking group, and you put a tremendous amount of time into these networking groups, right? You belong to several. You are always the first to volunteer. You're always the person willing to do stuff. And what's happened is people start to recognize you are a person of your word. Your character shines through. So you finally get this little gem, and it's a nice gem. And as you recall, in the very beginning of it, we had to do some qualifying for it. Like, show me your resume. What's your experience over here? Or what's this experience? And in this trustee sale, you have 4 beneficiaries that are all have different agendas. So there's a maelstrom of activity that's out there already being brought together. But you were so methodical in the planning. And I think the key elements of this were, we need to price it. We need to ring the bell so people see this value. You and I did a lot of study in that marketplace. We understood the range. We thought it would exceed our asking price by a certain percentage, which it did, and then some. But it was based on the fact that you had the experience to say, look, front load it this way. And by the way, the marketing pieces that you put together for that, the virtual staging, like
weren't those great?
staging,
They
virtual
look
staging.
they look so good.
It was like, I was like, what? That furniture's not there. If I walk through, it's like a hologram because none of it's there, and yet it fit so well, and it was so apt to the property. So a combination of this pricing model where and one of the strategies we use is like, look, we don't want to be disingenuous. We're not here throwing something that's not realistic out, but we're also saying we need to you as a seller, the mentality for a seller should so often be, if something has value, people will pay for it.
Yeah.
But you have to help them perceive value. And how are you going to do that? They're going to translate to that. And you have always had an eye towards this idea that there are numbers. People stop searching. So if you can get just underneath that level, just a hair underneath
the
that
biggest
level,
net. Yep.
you open the, right? And then you set it up. Now here's the other part. In COVID-19, we have very serious protocols we have to follow. They are no joke, right? It's a combination of disclosure. You have to sign a disclosure. It's a 4-page document. If you're going to come into the property, you have to abide by the protocols, which are you're not touching anything. You're wearing a mask. In many cases, you're wearing booties. In some cases, wearing gloves. You get your window to come in because it's one party at a time. And even if it's one party at a time, it's not 20 people. It's, a total of 3 or 4 or whatever that is, which you know better than I because we do so much of it. But then the other part is this particular property, because we priced it this way and we set it up and it looked so great online. I was exhausted just looking at the number of emails that came through. I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure that's 50, 60, 70. I felt like it was an auction. 50, 60, 70, 100, 110, 105. It was, and so you had all this activity. You were methodical and proactively communicative, which is exhausting because we already have 50 emails a day that need to be attended to. And now all of a sudden you've got 50 plus another 50, and it's important because you're going to deliver the goods, right? And on top of it, you took a long overdue, deserved real holiday and vacation with your family. And so you were able to, you got things so front loaded that you could step up and out, move, be immersed in that experience, which was tremendous, and come back and then juggle this so effectively. All right, so now I'm going to bring a little more color to it. So you start to show it, and it is 15-minute slots, and people are coming left, right, and otherwise. And you kept accommodating. I was really impressed by that because, I have a threshold. I'm pretty accommodating. I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. But you did. You kept fitting them in the forward, the back. So basically, it's like a giant 3-hour window of 15-minute increments, but you kept pushing the back and you kept lowering the front so more people could get in. But what you did is you created the rapport with everybody, and everybody trusted you. And that's part of one of the benefits of this COVID-19. There's a lot of this environment. There's a lot more transparency. There's a lot more communication and vetting up front. And so here you are at this home, doing what you do, giving people a deadline, like, hey, it's all good until this day because this is when it's due. And now you get multiple offers. And the multiple offers have a range from roughly asking price. I think there was one even below. And then one that was, 10% higher, like, hey, we see value. We're going to come after this thing. And we knew that the beneficiaries had a target in their mind. There was a minimum price that they were willing to accept, and then there was an ideal price they were willing to accept. But what you really did was communicate with the brokers, like, look, it's going to be what you want to do. At the very end of this story, it's going to be how badly does your client want it, and at what dollar are they willing to lose it for, and where does that threshold meet? And Jay, you did it masterfully. And I got to say, you didn't bring 10% above asking price. You brought 20%. above asking price. Hello, 20% return on anything? Would you knock your mother over in the street to go get 20% return? It's a vulgar, crass term, but you know what I'm saying. And you achieved it, and everybody's happy, like exceedingly happy, from the beneficiaries to the attorneys involved to the buyers to the sellers. Like, congratulations. That's it. See, you needed more color commentary there, girl, because you did so much work. You're like this little duck. Everyone just sees the duck going across the water. I'm like, oh, she's paddling like hell. She deserves to win a prop. You know, like, exhausting. I'm observing. I mean, I help a little bit, but I'm observing, going, I
You're
need to
great.
take a nap. I'm gonna need to take a nap. I'm gonna block my email for a little while because I can't see. Like, she answers one, there's 10 new ones.
Well, the best thing that I ever did was take typing class and piano lessons when I was a young kid, because I type faster than probably most people can even fathom to think or blink. So it does help to make it through a lot of emails.
It's first of all, it's quasi legendary in the office, because that's what it sounds like. Like, all of a sudden you'll be hearing something in jail, have a conversation, and it goes. Brrr. You're like, what? You see a paragraph pop in your email. You're like, that was like 10 seconds, and she wrote a book.
It's like playing all the concertinas and virtuosos and, piano lessons and typing. It did work towards something. I didn't get to be a musician, but I get to type really fast. Well, it's always fun when it comes together the way it does. But you know what?
It really does. It is, but it's part of.
Yeah.
It's the planning, it's the expertise, it's the care. And I think that's that if I had one thing that I would share with everybody that listens and wants to understand why we do what we do, it's actually because the level of care is the fulfillment of ourselves. Like, we know we're doing the best for every single person every single time at the highest level that we possibly can. And that's not word speak. That is truth. And in our lives, that's how we operate our truth. We live in this space where we give the very best we have for everybody, and we internalize it. And I know that there are times that we have been in transactions where we are in turmoil because we're worried about the result, and we're doing what we can. But over time and over these many years and hundreds of, well, actually between you and I, as you know, thousands of transactions, literally thousands, we are able to, with that expertise and experience, translate that to people. And we don't overly flaunt it. We're not sitting there hammering people with postcards and look at me and bus benches and, Wahoo and all this other flash. It's like, no, it's substance, because we're going to connect with what's most important to you. And when we understand what's most important to you, we are able to derive that and lead people with that and say, look, this is your mission. You wanted to accomplish this. We understand the pathway, the formula for doing this. It's complex, it's stressful. I've got that professor in Santa Monica. He's tenured. Well, he's tenured. He's retired now, from Berkeley. Been in his home for 40 years. I talk to him every day for probably half an hour to an hour. It's therapeutic to him, right? Accomplished, successful, highly intellectual.
He's no dummy. Of course, talking to you is free therapy.
Well, it works both ways, by the way. Got you the cup, you feel it, and I do. Caring, like, and at some point I knew, like, every once in a while I'll get a call and I can feel a little anxiety in his voice, and I know it's because he's having out. He's like, okay, and I think about trust control, right? And you and I often say, if you give us your trust, we're going to defend that aggressively and protect it. And we personally are going to suffer in that process to make sure you're whole. That's a commitment, time, energy, expertise, whatever it takes. And it's really as long as it's legal and ethical, you and I will do it. And you can't outwork us, right? So I say that because, Jay, I want to share with the world that I think that's such a solution to so many of the problems that we have. It's a combination of courage and grace. This idea of, let's be courageous, let's be dynamic, let's just put it out there. Let's go charge into the situations, the problems that we're addressing, face them, be honest about them, and then have grace to be able to forgive ourselves for our failings and shortcomings, and in others, and saying, like, look, I get it, you're human being, we're all trying to humanly doing, and it takes this kind of idea of connecting profoundly, and that's at the heart and soul of who you are, certainly in my life, but to everyone's life. And I like to illuminate that. I love sharing with people part of my thrill or excitement on Friday is I get to say to people like, look, you need to understand who's in your presence and the level of commitment, because if we live by these examples, I think we can lift each other up. Anyway, that's the end of my sermon for now. You can turn over for take two if you want.
Well, this has also been a very exciting week because I know my kids went back, or LAUSD started school yesterday full force via Zoom, and doing the best we can to monitor how we can stay connected, get the kids socially connected. So like Master H was saying, creating pods, it does create this time of wanting to stay in deeper communication with people. I find more parents are reaching out because, of course, I'm the parent president of our middle school, and trying to get these incoming, sixth graders. They're scared, they're new, maybe it's not as intimidating because they haven't physically had to see a new campus and the school they've known for 6 years. Now they're transitioning, but in a different Zoom platform for right now. So
Right.
I think it's in a gentle way for new students to kind of transition in. And I know for ninth graders, same thing. It's been that transition, but Ryan's a 10th grade at uni now, and Jake being 8th grade last year at Emerson. I'm hoping at some point we get to physically engage because he's in a great sports academy there. They do the most spectacular things. And that Starbucks on Westwood Boulevard that used to be the Coffee Bean is now all renovated. And they used to do these, treats if you're in the top 10 and you have Perfecta, which is you keep a 4.0 GPA, you do all your Cornell notes and you have attendance and all of those kind of milestones you're supposed to meet. You get to go during your first period and get a treat from Coffee Bean or Starbucks, and those kind of socially engaging things that they do that just makes it so rewarding for them to work hard. Because I mean, these kids, I know my kids work really hard, and so to see them work hard and then get a reward is nice. Because when I was growing up, the reward was you don't get a beating today if you get straight A's, versus like, oh, I get a treat. What treat? You get to not get beat. That's your treat. And it's like to see the kids now, they get straight A's and they get rewarded. I mean, it's nice. That's the way I would love to have my childhood experience be.
Well, it's a kinder, gentler world. And Jay, this is also kind of a testimony to as we evolve, we learn what we're going to do or take practices forward. I certainly remember corporal punishment as part of the norm at that time in that era, and we've all evolved past that. We recognize, again, it goes back to that esteem. I don't need you to act out of fear. I need you to act out of motivation for esteem and purposes of growth and doing the right thing. And then when you do the right thing, there are rewards. And like, listen, if we don't work and do the right thing, we don't get compensated. We don't get paid. This doesn't happen. We don't support the lives and the loves of our world. That's the truth. And so those consequences are really important, and core values of how we treat one another, and self-discipline and self-respect is a big part of it. And I love
Well, yeah, self-discipline and self-respect is the reason why, like, we know our negotiating skills alone, we earn what we get. That's for darn sure. We make sure we earn what we've what we're getting out of it. So
yeah, well, we know our value, and that's also life experience, and our kids are young, right? So they haven't really tasted too much of the real world, and the world they're living in now as things have changed. You see that. I love what Master H had to say relative to that, how he's adapted at the studio to figure out the different ways that they could outreach, whether it was an in-person in the back with a tent, or was a video series, or where it was an actual live Zoom course, or a hybrid of all three. Like, there was a creation in that. And I think that's the evolution of what we're dealing with. I think we're going to see education pivot on this. I think education is going to continue to grow and evolve, where there will be more online communications, video communications, and how we, the only challenge I have is I think there's a certain threshold I have for attention. Like, I can do it to a point, and then okay, now I'm like going to be lost for a little while. So I think the person that picks up on this idea, and I think that's what I love about Taekwondo, and I love about the PE class, and I think was such a brilliant idea. Okay, now we're done for the hour. Let's get up. Let's get the blood circulating. Let's get, let's hydrate. Let's do the things that we need to do, so that when we approach this in another 20 minutes, half hour, we're restored, renewed, and we can learn. I'm excited to see how the future goes like this. I am. I think that there's going to be some real new adaptations on how we all behave. And if nothing else, I hope it keeps this translation for less traffic on the city of LA, because it's nicer to get around this town.
Well, our hearts go out to those that have been evacuated during the fires. I know one of my friends up in Forestville, he just got evacuated yesterday, and all these dry lightning that's hitting the ground, that's causing, sparking all these wildfires across California. It's been so dry and hot. And so we really hope that people can stay safe and out there.
Well, I think to your point, Jay, there is that idea too of just kind of that awareness. We're down here, we have some fires to the east of us. I think there's like 3 or 4, but as you go north, there's like a dozen, 15 or 20. And I mean, these are all out there in the forest. This is really serious stuff. And the power surge, right? The grid and how we're having to work with that and lightning strikes. And someone was somewhere, and I'm trying to remember where they were, where they showed us on their film, where they had 70 lightning strikes within like 10 minutes. It was just some
Oh, wow.
crazy electrical storm. It was in Petaluma. And it was just amazing to actually see. So, when we talk about kind of being green and environmentally conscious, these are kind of the things we're maybe talking about. Maybe we're talking about nature's reacting in a way to a warming trend that is changing the way the weather patterns work and how it has impact. And maybe nature does that anyway, but I think there's some evidence that we've really impacted that as people, certainly with plastics in the oceans or just our waste and consumption. So I think there's green mindset, and moving more to this virtual lessening our impact is probably an evolution that we all need to adapt to sooner than later.
That's so true. Well, I know that we have a very full weekend. As hot as the market is, as hot as the weather is, it's still a lot lined up. I know you're going to get Harvard into escrow. I have several hours of showings for our clients tomorrow, and then it's my niece's 11th birthday on Sunday. So I'm excited for Kayla turning 11.
Already 11. That was like a minute
11,
ago.
I know.
She's such a sweet young lady. She comes, when you look in her eyes, she just has this natural joy and happiness, and she's just a kind person. So happy birthday, Kayla.
Yay. I know. And they're both August. She was 3 weeks early, so hers is Sunday, and then Kevin's we celebrated on Wednesday for his birthday as well. So it's been a full week of family celebrations and good things and even greater things to come. Hopefully inspections go well Monday. I feel like it will, but it has definitely been wonderful to be in the center of so much wonderful things going on, and excited for, as we evolve into the rest of this month, what else is coming. So, we got a great referral from one of our clients for Ocean Park. We have a 2-bedroom condo probably coming on the market in Ocean Park in the next month or so. So we'll see how prepared they are, but I'm going to meet with them on Tuesday and get that working as well. So excited for that. So just the person who referred us was 21 years they've been our clients. So thank you for there. What were you saying?
Hey, that's a commitment by itself. It should be acknowledged. But the other part is really for the audience to know. What I was going to say is for the audience to know how important it is that if you know people and they're thinking of it, we know at this moment, and it's probably related to the very low cost of money and the fact that people are, been quarantined in their own homes for 5-6 months at this point. They're ready to they've become clear about the changes and things they need. But if you're a seller, come get this there right this minute. That's for darn sure.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, it's another great week, man. I appreciate you so very much, and stay cool and stay safe out there this weekend.
All right, everybody stay hydrated.
Peace.